before we start. If you want to skip the introduction part and go straight to challenge rules, go to the time code on the screen or use the episodes feature. Pyrite Adventure 2 is a Roblox game which uses some design aspects as well as core gameplay mechanics from Sonic's Story of Sonic Adventure. First released in 2020, PA2 main story features 8 levels and 3 bosses, and while the levels remind of their counterparts from Sonic Adventure, both by their looks and sometimes even level design tricks, the bosses are rather original, for the most part, but about that later. And now that you know the basics, let's get to the challenge. Can you beat Pyrite Adventure 2 without moving? Now, let's set up the rules first. First of all, let's see what controls we have. We can jump and use homing attack. We can also use Spindash, and for some reason, despite the game being based on SA1, we can use roll from SA2, and, obviously, we can move either by using WASD keys or with arrow keys. Now, it is obvious that we cannot move with either of these options. We can however use jump and homing attack since the game is very platforming heavy. Since roll on its own does not move our character in any direction, we can use it at any time, but as you will find out later, it is pretty much useless apart from its specific sections. Now Spindash is a tricky topic. I will not ban it, but I will also not allow to use it freely, because in this game it is kinda op. So, if in a section I become certain that it cannot be completed with just jump and homing, only then I will be allowed to use Spindash. And also just for fun I will count all places where it is needed to see how many times you need to use it to beat the stage. Alright, now that we figured out the controls, here are the rules. 1. I cannot move my character at any time, with 2 exceptions, but I will talk about them when we reach them. 2. If I move at any time apart from those exceptions, I have to immediately restart the stage from the beginning. 3. I have to start from fresh save, since the main story has hub worlds where you have to cover a certain distance before you get to next stage. 4. I don't have to do episode noob stages since I don't have the game pass. I might make a video on this DLC sometime in the future though. And finally 5. No big speed running skips, unless absolutely necessary. I can take shortcuts here and there, but no things like beating the first stage in 20 seconds, second stage in 40 seconds and so on. I have to take the regular route, unless there is no other way to beat the stage, of course. The run starts with me deleting the saved data. Since I'm not sure if I had any since the last time I played this game was back in around 2021, I will delete it just to be sure. Since the first boss is supposed to be a tutorial boss, it is very easy to beat in regular gameplay. It only needs 3 hits and it doesn't attack you on its own. It is like a stage boss that alters the path you need to take to get to it. It spawns lasers after first hit and idle robots that just float after second. They don't even attack you, so the only way to get damage from them is by directly running into them, which obviously is something that won't happen here. Apart from having a skill issue here and there, this boss is fairly easy even with this challenge. I managed to beat him in 6 minutes 4 seconds total over 4 attempts. After a short dialogue, we reach our first proper level, Green Paradise. Now it is supposed to be a simple but long stage, again, to make people used to the gameplay. Now, how speedrunners do this stage. They reach this edge and Spindash to that platform to quickly skip to that checkpoint. Obviously, we can't do that, so we go left instead. Jumping over these rocks and onto the dash panel, we reach the checkpoint in the same time that will take speedrunners to beat this stage completely almost 2 times. Yeah, PA2 speedruns are crazy. Anyway, after getting here, we jump down and hit a spring to get to the next part. Here a simple homing sequence, a spring and a dash panel, and we reach our first obstacle of the run. A wall with a small hole at the bottom, clearly meant to roll or spin dash underneath. Now, this can be cleared with some jump dash and roll spamming, but it can take some time. But after we clear it, we reach the actual problem, a dash panel that is supposed to get us onto the bridge. Now, normally, you move forward so it is never a problem in reaching. But here we don't cover enough distance. I actually managed to clear it on my first try but fell down immediately after. After banging my head against it a few times, I figured something out. The panel carries your momentum over the launch, so if we jump on it in a way that we have some speed when we land, we should be able to get launched with more speed. I tried it out, and it worked. Remember this. This trick is gonna become very important here. After this, a small homing section and we reach our next checkpoint. After another annoying roll wall, we reach yet another dash panel, this time even further away from the target. This one is particularly annoying, since I could not clear it even with the jump momentum. It was clear that you are intended to move forwards to reach the island, but I would not give up into using spin dash so easily. So I tried jumping right after landing on the panel, which would allow me to use a jump dash after launching, but that made me cover even less distance, so after some tries I scrapped that idea. Also here I accidentally moved so hit to restart the stage. I found out you can climb these rocks before the first dash panel, which allows us to skip the first roll wall, which is a nice time saver. After reaching this part again, I tried aligning myself so that I can jump on the dash panel while having more speed, but the platform was narrow so it didn't really work. After another few tries, I discovered a trick which would be really helpful in this run. I called it a long jump. Now, usually, I do not hold the jump button to the full before homing, since there was no point doing this. However, I discovered that if you hold it until you reach the maximum height, your homing or jump dash will be stronger, it will have larger targeting distance, it will launch you slightly further, and, what's the most important, it will give you more momentum, which allows us to finally reach the next island. In my excitement, I completely forgot that you cannot use homing after homing to a spring, which led me to a restart. Now, on my next attempt, I managed to reach this island much faster, and this time I went with the right side with homing instead, finally reaching another checkpoint. Here, instead of banging against a roll wall, I went with the small platforming section. This is where you can do another speed run skip, but that's not what we are gonna do, and this is where we reach a potential run killer. You see, there is no way we can get onto this spring to progress without homing onto it, and after you do it, you cannot use homing again until you land on the ground, or so I thought, until I remembered that on the first boss there is this exact spring, and you can actually use homing after landing on it, but only for a short frame of time, and only if the spring is close enough to you when you jump on it. So, here is where the first exception comes. If I get stuck on such spring, I am allowed to move, but only backwards or to the side, so I can try to use homing again. I cannot move forwards to progress the level. So, after I figured this out, I restarted the stage one more time, and after I reached the part with the dash panel, I found something I forgot existed in this game. The respawn bug. Now, respawn bug is a bug that can occur when, well, you respawn. Basically, I believe it goes something like this: when you die, the game reloads your scripts as well as stage scripts, and during the loading, sometimes something can go wrong, since the effects of respawn bug can be various. Here are the things that may happen if a respawn bug occurs. You can have no homing, enemies can be unkillable, dash panels and springs can be untouchable, enemies may not respawn, your camera may be stuck in the same place, and, my favorite, the screen may be black. Now, this is another exception: if a respawn bug occurs, I am allowed to move to quickly off myself so the game can fix itself, since at that time I haven't remembered yet that you can use Roblox reset to respawn. Anyway, after clearing the spring we reach yet another tough part. After an automated water riding section like in Sonic 06 we have, you guessed it, another dash panel. After trying a few times I figured that you can jump out of the water, and with good timing I managed to get enough momentum to reach the next part of the stage. After some easy platforming we reach the part where you have to use homing on the two robots to advance, and I am most certain that without moving, you cannot reach the second one. So, after some minutes of failed attempts, I use my first spin dash here. Then, we reach another homing section, and originally I used a spin dash here too, but later I figured that if you use homing almost immediately after destroying the robot, you might get enough targeting distance to reach the spring. So a spin dash here is not mandatory. This part here is not hard, it just requires careful positioning. After that we use another spin dash, and after clearing another old wall we get a small wall jumping section and reach our next checkpoint. Here there is no way to reach the next island without spin dash, so we use one. And after an automated orca running and yet another water riding sections we finally clear Wave Paradise in 1 hour, 2 minutes 51 seconds total over 6 attempts, while using spin dash only 3 times. After a short cutscene and jumping in a straight line, we reach our second level, Casino Palace. Now this level is a lot more linear and on top of that a lot more easier in general. After maneuvering around the lasers I fail the homing section. Luckily there is a spring there so I can get to the next part easily. Here there is no way to clear those bounce orbs without moving, so we go left to the lasers path instead. After short platforming we reach this part where we have to use a spin dash for the first time. Then we get into a tunnel with a fan that gets us to the upper part of it. Luckily, the game pushes us forward automatically so the run doesn't end here. Here after some attempts, I decide to use a spin dash, and since we use it anyway, might as well skip the most. Here we have to use spin dash again 2 times to finally get out of the casino sewers. After a spin dash and moving backwards to get unstuck from the spring we manage to finish Casino Palace in just 9 minutes and 30 seconds on the first attempt while using spin dash 5 times. Up next we have Snowcap, another easy stage, and despite that, after just 10 seconds and we reach a part where we have to use a spin dash to advance. Here I spent some time figuring the path before realizing that I could just do a shortcut here which is much more simple and will require only 1 spin dash. Here after getting stuck on a spring and using a spin dash here I reach the small flood escape section. A homing here, a careful jump there, and we are on to the next part of the stage. Here I used a long jump to just barely get across, and after some platforming and a spin dash we get to the home straight, clearing Snowcap in less than 5 minutes on the very first attempt, though having to use spin dash 5 times. Next stop, Twister Park. We begin with some automated rail grinding, much like Sonic Forces, and after a skill issue moment here, we reach a roll wall which I managed to clear easily and a small room-like section. Here we are supposed to reach that rings box and then the spring, and it seems like without spin dash it's impossible. However, you can get onto the grass ledge and then reach the spring from there. After more rail grinding, we reach Castle Roof's platforming, which is impossible without spin dash. After that, more rail grinding, then 2 roll walls, and we reach the first part where I use a big speed running skip. You see, at the end of this stage, we have a karting section much like in the original game, and since you cannot control the kart without moving, we have to use the speed running skip here. We spin dash on this blue roof, and then onto the kart course. Embarrassingly, I failed this simple skip on my first attempt. On my second attempt, I used homing on this robot which made me stuck in this animation. But luckily it didn't affect my character in any way, so I managed to reach the kart course easily. Here there are dash panels that send you to the upper parts, but thankfully they have enough power to launch us even without moving. The course is rather long, and the section where you get out of the kart thankfully lets us through even like that. And as a bonus, It also fixed my character's animations. And just like that, we managed to beat Twister Park in just 6 minutes and 13 seconds, while using Spindash 4 times. And with that, we beat 4 out of 8 levels of this game. Next up we have Adrenaline Highway, and oh boy, this was a tough one. First of all, this stage is long, like very long, if you don't use skips of course. If you do, then you can beat this stage in just under a minute, since its length is like this because you are mostly going back and forth and not really progressing forwards. Anyway, after the first running section, which lasts for a minute here, we already reach our first Spindash use. There will be plenty of them later, trust me. Then we climb onto this glass platform and get to the top. Then we have to do a very precise long jump to reach that robot and get to the road in front. Then we reach a platforming section where we have to use another Spindash. After that we hit a spring and get to the next part. Here I originally thought we have to use Spindash to safely get down, but it turned out that with good positioning it is possible to get through this without it. Here we have to use 2 Spindashes to clear the pit, and another one here to reach this building. I failed the second jump, and here is where the most bizarre PA2 respawn bug occurred. My checkpoint didn't count. As you can see here, I clearly touched it, and the posts went up, but the game didn't count it. So when I died, I respawned back here, so I thought it would only be fair if I clear this part again with a Spindash. Now back to the building. At first I thought that if you defeat the robots but fail to get to spring you will have to respawn, but once again, with good positioning it is possible even without robots being there. After clearing this, the exact opposite bug happened. The checkpoint post didn't work, but after I died, I respawned here instead of the previous one. Anyway, reaching this platform here is impossible without Spindash. So I use one, and we reach the second hardest section of the entire run. I have to use a precise Spindash jump to reach this small platform up here. Let's just say that this was hard. After a lot of attempts, I managed to land on this platform, and with some damage boosting get the checkpoint. Compared to this, the next platforming section was like a walk in the park. I just needed some good positioning, and I cleared it easily. And after a Spindash jump, we reach the final part of the level, which is an automated runner down the building side, pretty much like the original game. And with that, we finally beat Adrenaline Highway in 37 minutes, 2 seconds, with using Spindash 9 times. Next is the second boss of this game, BaconMobile, a very easy boss. All you have to do is run around and make his missile hit him. Easy boss that we beat in just 3 minutes without using Spindash once. Next level is Sky Pillar, the level which level design absolutely sucks. Not only this level consists of narrow platforms, but it is also platforming heavy, which means that it is very easy to fall here, especially in this challenge. After Spindash is here, 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 here and here, we reach this part with a ladder, and this is where our challenge would end, if not for this spring underneath, which allows us to get to the top and progress further. After easy homing sections, we reach the single hardest part of the entire run. Remember the precise Spindash jump from previous level? Well, here we have to do it not once, but twice in a row. And no, we cannot use a Spindash to instantly reach this robot. We have to do the platforming. That time when I actually managed to clear this but then failed the easy jump dash. Here you can see how much time this took me. This section is not hard, just Spindash jumps all the way. So we have to use a double Spindash here. I will talk about what it is later. And so, we finally clear Sky Pillar in 30 minutes 42 seconds total over 2 attempts, using 18 Spindashes and a single double Spindash. Penultimate level, Lost Temple. Definitely a very needed breather after 2 tough levels. After a roll walls entrance section, we reach a small room with platforms and a spring. Nothing hard, just careful jumps with a spin dash jump at the end. This next part is a big open space with lots of platforming. And here is where I use another speed running trick, double spin dash. Double spin dash is when you charge a spin dash right after letting go of one. This allows you to go much faster and take longer jumps. I calculated in my head that reaching this middle island normally would require at least 2 spin dashes anyway, so why not do it faster? After a few shortcuts here and there, we reach the next platforming section, now with Death Water, and this section is actually very easy. The platforms are located close to each other, so I managed to clear this without spin dashing once. On to the next part. Now we have those lamp posts that light when you use homing on them. This platforming part is also pretty easy. You only need some good positioning, and a spin dash jump here. And a spin dash jump here. After that a long run downwards and we beat Lost Temple in 17 minutes 45 seconds while using spin dash 6 times. Final Bacon, the final stage of the game. Here we are immediately hit in the face with a rolled wall. And after clearing it, we have to use 2 spin dash jumps to reach the other side. Yes, it took me a minute to clear this section. Any questions? Anyway, after that, some careful laser platforming, a rolled wall, more careful laser platforming, but this time upwards, and we reach this part with a ladder. I thought this was a run killer, but just like in Sky Pillar there was a way. I tried going around and saw this place pretty high up, so I thought that if you use a double spin dash here, you can actually reach the top of the platform. But I accidentally moved, so had to restart the stage. Before trying the double spin dash jump, I decided to spam jump right next to the ladder to see if I can somehow get over it, and, to my surprise, it actually worked. Now this glitch is super inconsistent and you could spend a lot of time doing it. But now I at least know that there is a way to get past this part. After failing further down the stage, I decided to actually try the spin dash jump. After a few unsuccessful attempts, I actually managed to get the jump done. After some careful platforming, we have to use a jump dash off of this spring in a way to land on the platform, but also not close to the spikes, since we need a spin dash jump to progress. Well, this took a few tries, but I succeeded in the end. After that we reached this platform, and I originally thought that you could reach the next platform with a long jump. Well, you could not, so I used a spin dash jump on the next try. After that some more laser platforming in a room, and thanks to the laser holders being solid objects I could advance easily. Some more careful laser platforming, a spin dash jump here and there, and we finally beat Final Bacon in 54 minutes 44 seconds while using spin dash 14 times and having to optionally use a double spin dash to bypass the ladder. And so, here is the final boss, BaconWyvern, which is literally Egg Wyvern from Sonic 06. Even their names are very similar. The boss pattern is simple. It shoots you with its laser n amount of times, it speeds through one of the 3 lanes, and then spawns orbs for you to use homing on to reach him. After dealing a hit, Baconhair will destroy some of your platforms, and then repeat. This boss is still easy, with only issue being his cockpit having horrible targeting. I still remember my any % run where I spent too much time on this boss simply because of this. Anyway, after a certain amount of hits, he will destroy all platform except for this one, and you will have to carefully time your jumps to evade from the projectiles. On the first try I failed and then had to restart a lot of times because of the before mentioned bad targeting. So, after evading this, he will go straight to spawning orbs because there would be no way of evading from his lane rush. And after dealing the hit, he will destroy your platform as well, which leads us to a freefall section. Now, at first, I thought that if you rotate the camera with shift lock, you can move ever so slightly, and the way the model rotated made me think this worked, but it actually didn't, and you don't have any controls here apart from the movement keys. And the amount of times the boss shoots at you means that you can't even damage boost through this section. And so, Despite all the obstacles we had to overcome, and despite being just one boss hit away from finishing the game, I have to say that you cannot beat Pyrite Adventure 2 without moving. Despite failing so close to the end, and despite having lots of annoying and tough sections, I enjoyed this challenge. It feels nice being back in this game. As I had a lot of fun playing and speedrunning it, I will definitely make at least one more challenge on this game, and I might do another speedrun, this time in Spindashless category. In total, I spent 4 hours, 11 minutes and 35 seconds beating these levels, and used 64 spin dashes and 2 double spin dashes, with another 2 double spin dashes being optional. Anyway, this was Silby. Thank you for watching, and I see you next time.